Hi guys, Dave Canfield here, your creature feature preacher. I got that nickname because I like to talk about spirituality and genre entertainment. And you'll hear me doing that in interviews and if you read my reviews and my thought pieces. But I also do a home entertainment roundup about once a month that lets you know the cool things that have been sent my way that I want to let you know about. Things I think you might enjoy if you're into this kind of thing. So, starting out, I have some books, I have some records, and I have some movies. Let's get going. The first ah album that I want to show you is here we go, man. Sticky. Is really one I was excited to get. This is from Mutant Records. Actually, both of these are going to be from Mutant Records. And it came in that plastic sleeve. And then, of course, you get your standard kind of insert there to protect the record. And then you get some other mysterious thing. Some of you might be able to figure out what this is at this point. Not quite sure, hopefully. Here's another thing that we see. Ooh, ah, and there you go. A flash of that. That was an insert as well. Last but not least, you get the cover. This is the soundtrack to Long Legs. I love Long Legs. I think it's a very interesting film. You better hurry if you want to get this. They are going to go out of print from the good folks at Mutant, and the version they sent me, which is pretty nifty, is the black and red version with the symbols. I don't know exactly what they're calling that, but I have listened to it several times. Excellent fidelity stuff. And it came with something else, one more thing that was really special. An enveloped, well, just like in the film, that said Lee Harker, do not open until January 14th. And then you open it up and you get an ominous card that's too cute with a message in it for Lee. And you get some of the hieroglyphics and stuff on the back. Really, really cool stuff. Lovely to see Oz Perkins doing so well. Um, and needless to say, that made me happy to get my next album that I want to show you guys. Came in this plastic sleeve, and I think you got maybe saw the title on there if you were quick. It's your black insert, and then this is really cool. Look at that, nice matte green um, thing. I don't know if you can tell, but that's a key, a wind up key in the back of it. And this is just a slide through sleeve. So you can see how that is covering up something. What is it covering up? Just about the coolest cover ever. Um, I didn't get one of those monkey popcorn buckets. I think I'm going to go ahead and get one on the second market. They're so cool. This though is a nice sort of secondary prize. You're getting some light stuff. I can't do anything about that, but you kind of get the drift. The record itself looks like this. Suitably ooky and very interesting soundtrack to the monkey. Um, you'll have to make up your own mind about it. The monkey song that it plays when it's about to kill somebody isn't on there, and I'm not sure why. Um, so I may go hunting for that on some other sort of vinyl. But I was real happy to get those. Thank you, Mutant, for sending those. Next up are some books, and these are from Titan. And they produce great film books and great just genre specific fun books. And I'm going to be covering a lot of their stuff leading up to the holidays because they have a lot of really cool stuff coming out. First was this kind of just fun thing they sent me. It's called the Klingon Next Door and by Joey Spiotto. And basically, this is just how your Klingon Next Door would kind of have to get through life. Nice little coffee table book, or maybe even something for your kids if they're really into Star Trek, and maybe having a little glass of wine. I don't know. Giving your kids wine. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, also still in sort of that range of like, is it for kids? Is it for adults? Probably this one is more for adults. It's the Rocky Horror Picture Show official coloring book. I like adult coloring books. And much to the chagrin of people who think I should be smarter than that or whatever, too bad. I really like this stuff. It's really, really fun. And of course, the nice thing about these is, are they detachable? These are not like perforated to detach, but of course you can take them to a printer and make, half a dozen copies of each page on decent paper. And all of a sudden you've got, you can have a party. So I don't know if you want to take it to a screening because it's kind of hard to color in the dark, but you could definitely all cosplay. And I don't know. The trouble with cosplaying Rocky Horror is you wind up with too many Frankenfurters. I'm just going to let that lay there. This is the Rocky Horror Picture Show official coloring book from Titan. This is amazing what I'm going to show you next. We all know that it's the anniversary of Jaws, 50th anniversary of Jaws. Everyone is flooding the market with all sorts of cool stuff. And now I believe it's going to be in theaters. You can still see it in theaters, or it's just getting ready to come out in theaters. This is a revised and updated edition of Jaws Memories from Martha's Vineyard by Matt Taylor. And this is, kind of the definitive book on Jaws. You can see how huge it is. I think it's well over 300 pages. And it is just full of interviews with all sorts of folks, quotes, and all sorts of like plans that show you how the shark worked and stories about how the shark didn't work and stories about all your favorite characters and actors and on-set drama and everything you'd ever want to know about Jaws. I really can't recommend this book enough. This is a kind of a permanent part of any film lover's library. This is a book definitely you could pass down. And if you got a coffee table, you just better make sure it's pretty sturdy because it's big and it's heavy. Thank you, Titan Books. I'm looking forward to seeing more of your stuff throughout the year. I have now some movies, and these movies are mostly going to be from Kino. Thank you, Kino, for sending stuff up. I'm expecting some stuff from Severin. I may be getting some stuff from Criterion here pretty quick. And other stuff comes in as well. I'll be covering it all, just letting you know that it's out there. Some of it I'll be going a little bit more in depth with than others. I collect physical media, so I'll be paying attention to things like how I think the movie looks and the packaging and all that. So I hope you look forward to that. I really love doing this. This is a kind of a break for me, brain wise, from having to do the kind of writing I'm starting to get used to doing every day. And here we go. First, Warner sent me a couple titles. One is the 4K copy of The Conjuring. I gotta say, Warner's doing a great job just getting 4K copies of a lot of their really good classic movies out there. And I mean to use the word classic lightly, but I do think The Conjuring is a truly great horror movie. Now, there's some controversy around The Conjuring, particularly because I think they've announced this next Conjuring movie is the last one, the last movie about the Warrens anyway, or whatever. But I know that the Warrens are have been accused of some stuff. Um, People, because they deal in the supernatural, have assumptions about them being, con artists. I think there were some child abuse allegations in one of their cases, and I don't think that had to do with them. I think it had to do with the family that they were investigating, but they kind of caught heat for not reporting on it right away or the way that they should have, I think is how that went. In any event, um, for people who, aren't following the Warrens or not particularly trying to lift them up or whatever, The Conjuring is a really, really great horror movie. And there you go. And this has special features on it, um, which is cool. I don't see any commentary. Mainly, yeah, mainly, just featurettes. But hey, it looks great. So check that out. And another movie, one of the biggest movies of the year, period, much less horror movies of the year, is Sinners. This is a 4K copy. It maintains all the aspect ratios that were present in Sinners, which is one of the things that made it unique was the way it shifted the size and shape of the frame in between shots. Um, in both these cases, you get the exact same cover. Here, you also get, it looks like, mainly featurettes. And I have watched these. They're very well done. I liked them a lot. Would have been cool to get a music video on here. Would have been cool to have a commentary on here. I think that's going to happen down the road. Obviously, this is not the last time we're going to see this movie released on home entertainment. One thing I will say about this is I saw Sinners twice in the theater. And the first time I saw it in like an IMAX, I think it was a 40X format. It was an amazing looking film. And when I saw it the next time, I saw it in a digital format, obviously these days. But um, the image didn't seem as bright. And I think that has to do with the difference between uh, the source material and the projection. And I have to say, you never know with theaters these days if their projection is going to be perfect. Now, this is a slightly darker version. You're going to want to watch this on a big screen that has really rich, deep, dark blacks in its dynamic range, and still an absolutely stunning film. Still looks fine. But for your purists, you might notice that. So Sinners. Now, moving on, I'm going to show you some releases from Kino. Kino is just one of my favorite labels. Over the years, they have been so supportive and even stood by me when I had some trouble getting, reviews out. And I'm really, really proud to be getting their stuff reviewed all the time. This represents like a couple of months worth. I think July and August is what you're getting here in Kino. I'm going to have some September titles on the way, and I'm looking forward to covering those for you as well. First up, finally on Blu-ray, Repossessed. And it has Linda Blair and Leslie Nielsen. So that's right. Not all that many people know or know that should know that Linda Blair actually made an Exorcist parody. And Leslie Nielsen, of course, is the perfect guy to cast as the Exorcist. This is one of those joke a minute comedies that's really silly, kind of has a really wonky, funny, funky plot. Um, I think it's a marvelous, marvelous comedy. You want to definitely check it out, and I'm super happy to finally get a copy of it on Blu-ray. You do get an audio commentary with writer and director Bob Logan. Repossessed. Next up is Shane. And all these movies that I'm showing you, they all come with a slipcase that looks just like the cover that I'm showing you on the actual disc. So Shane, Shane, Academy Award nominated film, a beloved Western. Definitely a movie for Western completists. Definitely a movie for anybody who's interested in how the Western was migrating from pure Americana into the anti-hero age and into, a more dour kind of understanding of itself. and just a really good movie to boot. Stars Alan Ladd, Jean Arthur, Van Heflin, real famous for, I think, the little boy at the end yelling, Shane, Shane, come back, Shane. Well, you never have to beg Shane to come back to your local theater, rep theater again, because now you can have a beautiful 4K copy. This looks great. You get an audio commentary by author, film historian Alan K. Rode, writer of the forthcoming monograph, Shane, a Real West Series book from the University of New Mexico Press. You get an audio commentary from George Stevens Jr., the production assistant and son of the late director-producer George Stevens. And you get also on that audio commentary, producer Ivan Moffat. So you get the director, you get various people who were involved in this film. 2 audio commentaries, can't beat it. Looks great. Shane finally hitting 4K. This next film is a film that I need to make a confession about. There's only one reason I asked for a copy of this movie, and that is because I like the cover art. I never do this. I never, ever, ever do this. It's called Sands of the Kalahari, and it's by Cy Enfield. I don't know if you know who that name is, but if you look on the cover, there are these monkeys and they have axes and clubs. Is that not the coolest thing you've ever seen in your life? So these people, they, Stuart Whitman and Stanley Baker and Susanna York, they end up stuck in the Kalahari, and they have to fight off these monkeys that have somehow learned how to use these kinds of tools and go to town with them. I have no explanation for that. It is, think about Flight of the Phoenix with monkeys. It's just a weird, wonderful bit of adventure that could never have been made to take itself seriously the way it is here. And of course, it's pre-CGI, so you get the wonderfully wonky, dated sort of way that they had to sort of showcase angry monkeys. So there you go, Sands of the Kalahari, and you get an audio commentary by film historians Howard S. Berger and Nathaniel Thompson. Next up is The Coneheads. This, one of the early SNL sketch movies that was ever made. You see Jane Curtin and Dan Aykroyd there. Sorry, I'm forgetting the name of this other actress. It is Michelle Burke. Michelle Burke, whom you may remember from something. Anyway, The Coneheads is on 4K. Really nice to get that upgrade. And inner copy looks the same as the sleeve. You get an audio commentary with director Steve Barron and film historian Michael Felsher. You get a variety of interviews, and you get the vintage electronic press kit and behind the scenes footage. So a really good package for, obviously a pretty silly movie, but that's really the joy of it. Is this is actually a good movie. It's really fun. So if you like movies like Real Genius or any of those kind of quonky, 80s, 90s comedies, this is 1993. This really is about as good as you could expect a Conehead movie to be. And if you don't know who the Coneheads are, I'm excited for you. Just go out and rent this, and you'll be able to watch Dan Aykroyd inhale an entire roll of toilet paper. Okay, enough of the hard sell. Next up, we've only got a few more to go here, folks, is Silent Scream. Now here you get a flip cover. You can have that cover, or you can have the cover that's on the slipcase. Silent Scream is one of those weird 1970s horror mystery thrillers. And I gotta say, it's a genre that if you grew up on it like I did, or you kind of get your hooks into you, it's like, for one reason or another, it's kind of like Hallmark movies. I have a friend who's about the coolest guy in the world who got sucked into the Hallmark movie universe, and now he watches Hallmark movies all the time. You couldn't pay me to watch a Hallmark movie. There's no way. His name is Josh Hurtado, by the way. You may know who he is. He's a really cool filmophile and expert on Indian cinema. But he can tease me about these. There are so many of these movies from the 1970s. This is from 1979. Um, and I'm not even going to tell you anything about it. It never goes away. It's repeatedly been referenced by people who have a real soft spot for it. And after finally seeing it, I can tell why. It's well made. It's got interesting characters, and it's just sort of silly enough that it registers really well in that part of your lizard brain that just wants something to be on that's kind of fun and grabs your attention for a little bit. Here you get audio commentary by writers Jim and Ken Wheat and actress Rebecca Balding, and audio commentary by Barbara Steele. Yes, that Barbara Steele, who is in the film, moderated by film historian David Duvall. You get several featurettes and interviews. And again, so nice to get this in 4K. Thanks a lot, Kino. This was interesting. I don't know that I loved this film, but it is an interesting supernatural natural thriller. It's from 1980. It's called The Medium, and it is basically an American music composer is getting used to the death of his wife, and he moves to an old mansion in Rome with his young son, and they are haunted by a series of inexplicable events, causing them to hire a medium to divine the true nature of their seemingly cursed existence. So this falls into the same category for me as Silent Screams. People who are really into Italian movies may feel differently. They may feel that this occupies a different place in the history of Italian horror cinema. I found it a tiny bit plodding, but definitely a movie that I am glad that I own and have seen. Very interesting for anybody who's interested in seances in the movies and the way that those sorts of things are handled. Um, really cool seance sequence in this film. Uh, it is augmented by an audio commentary by film historians and hosts of Wild Wild podcast, Adrian Smith and Rod Barnett, the medium. And last but most, not least, but most, a movie that I was so excited to get for several reasons that I cannot begin to explain it to you. In the days when I was growing up, you could not see movies starring Paul Naschy, the Spanish horror film star. They just didn't get shown on my local affiliates, and they certainly weren't at the movies when I was growing up. He had sort of stopped making movies by then, and you had to be pretty aware to catch his stuff in cinemas. I think they did get some distribution in the United States, um, but and others can speak to exactly how accurate all that is. But it's kind of I think those are fairly reasonable comments. Um, and there were movies that you would hear about, and you'd say, "Man, I really want to see that." And when I was a kid, anything with Frankenstein in the title, immediately I had to see it. I had to see what was going on with Frankenstein, one of my favorite monsters of all time, had been for years and years and years. And I kept reading in Famous Monsters of Filmland, and I would get the occasional copy of Fangoria, and um, I would have film books that would refer to it, always in these sort of oblique terms. This was kind of an in the know movie, and it was called Frankenstein's Bloody Terror. This is the introduction of Paul Naschy's famous character, Valdemar Daninsky, who is secretly, not so secretly, a werewolf and is trying to fight monsters despite his own curse. Um, that character sort of lives in legend for people who had access to these movies and grew up reading the fan magazines and whatnot. And you would always see pictures of Nashi in his werewolf makeup. In this one, he fights another werewolf, and he fights a pair of vampires. Frankenstein's not in this movie. That's one of the things this movie is famous for, is committing the unpardonable sin of having Frankenstein in the title and then not giving young fans a Frankenstein. Kind of tantamount to what else? To the way that Edgar Allan Poe's stuff got appropriated to make movies like The Black Cat that had hardly anything to do with cats or whatever. You kind of wonder, okay, somebody had the rights to a title, so they made a movie. In this case, it's even more egregious because the people who demand this was not the original title of this movie. I think the original title was La Marco del Hombre Lobo. So Curse of the Wolfman, I think, or Mark of the Wolfman was the original title of this film, but for American distribution, they demanded this. Silly, silly, silly people. One really cool thing about this movie is it's shot in 3D, and the 3D in it is really good. Um, it's just silly enough and just barely poignant enough, and also um doesn't go out of its way to do super schlocky effects shots. Instead, they play with the lighting and they do some in-camera effects that are pretty interesting in terms of how the colors show up in the frame and stuff. And then they also uh don't bother with like on-screen werewolf transformations and stuff. They do most of that with shadows and quick cuts. So it's kind of a pretty interesting film if you're interested in movies of this kind. This is from 1968, Paul Naschy's first appearance as Dominski. Lots of werewolves, lots of Dracula, no Frankenstein, and done in really fun 3D. And you get, so where I get into the extras, a really cool slipcase with what I believe is a original art. Maybe that might come off of an original poster for the film. So ways to look at it, and you get to watch it in 2D if you want. You can also watch it in anaglyphic, which means you wear the red and cyan glasses. Didn't come. Oh, does come. Ah, does come with red and cyan glasses, which is very nice. Provided one pair. So if you want to watch it with somebody else, you got to go out and get a pair. And if you have 3D equipment like I do, got a 3D TV and a player, then you can watch it that way. That's how I watched it. You also get an audio commentary by novelist and critic Tim Lucas, an audio commentary by film historians Troy Howarth, Troy Gwynn, and Rod Barnett. And let me tell you, Lucas is a fan of this film. And any fan or any Lucas that's a fan of this film, I'm a fan of that Lucas. So you should definitely check out what Tim has to say. He's incredibly knowledgeable about this film. Also, the 3D restoration. You're going to get about as good an explanation of what it's like to restore a 3D movie as you've ever heard in your life. And it's like 28 minutes long. They really get into the restoration of this movie. And if it hadn't have been restored, we wouldn't have it today. This is definitely a movie that was possibly going to get lost. So you also get some deleted scenes and an alternate opening title sequence. So that's all I'm going to have for you in this home entertainment roundup. I'll get another one together here as soon as I have enough stuff to make it worth your while. I am deeply appreciative to Kino and Warner and Titan Books and Mutant Records for sending me this fun stuff. And remember, if you're out there and you're collecting this stuff, I love you because not only do I share that with you, but I think that speaks to a real part of your heart that makes this stuff important to you, not because you want to look like necessarily the coolest kid on the block, but because you want to preserve and experience cool things in the media sphere. Um, I'm glad you're out there getting your wonder fix. And I'll talk to you later. Preacher, preacher, preacher out. Bye.